Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning this morning. Whether you're watching us live on YouTube or live on Facebook, we are happy to have you here with us. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing well, doing great. I had a great weekend with my family. I enjoyed the All-Star game festivities, the All-Star game itself. Yeah, I had to walk away from that.
We're going to get into that shortly here, Mo. But I wanted to start with this. And I know this is something that you already touched on a little bit over on And One, but we didn't touch on it here on the morning show. And I think this morning is the time to do that. So, a lot of basketball attention the past couple of days has been on the women, and rightfully so, right? You have Caitlin Clark doing her thing. You have Sabrina and Steph doing their thing. And we got a lot of good things to talk about when it comes to women's basketball this morning. But we're going to open with the questionable thing, Mo. And the questionable thing came because of what Caitlin Clark did. So Caitlin Clark sets the record. She's the all-time leading scorer in women's college basketball. She did it in grand fashion, scoring the first 8 points of that game, draining it from the logo. We all saw it. It was wonderful. And you would think, without really thinking about it, Mo, you would think that the world of women's basketball would embrace that. You would think that the world of women's basketball would say, hey, people are talking about our sport. People are talking about women's basketball. And if people are talking about women's basketball in a positive light, Mo, as a sports person, I'd say that's a pretty damn good thing.
A
But
great thing.
unfortunately, not all women in basketball felt that way. Women's basketball legend Cheryl Swoops decided that she doesn't really like the fact that Caitlin Clark broke the record because she didn't do it in the same amount of time that the record was set in. Or so she thought, because Swoops decided to go on to this podcast, or maybe it was her own podcast. I didn't bother to take the time to figure that part out, Mo. But in her mind, this record that Caitlin set wasn't valuable because she knew there was a COVID season involved somewhere with Caitlin. And in her mind, she had a whole extra year to do this. So, Mo, initially I heard that and I said to myself, well, what everyone's talking about it's being her fourth year. What is Cheryl talking about the COVID year? So I took the 30 seconds to go back and verify the fact that this is Caitlin's fourth year. So everything that Cheryl Swoops said on the surface was really not true, first of all, Mo. And second of all, it just showed you that she spent zero time just fact checking to verify before she said what she said. So, Mo, that brings us to the next question. Why? Why would somebody within the sport of women's basketball come out and attack one of their own? Because the premise of her argument, let's say that this was her fifth year. By the way, it wasn't. By the way, she broke this record in less shot attempts than the previous record holder. By the way, she broke this record with a better shooting percentage than the previous record holder. By the way, she broke this record in less games played than the previous record holder. So she did all of this in much more impressive fashion than the previous record holder. So, Mo, I'm sure you've seen the takes out there, and I'm sure you've seen the different elements that have been brought into this conversation. And I don't want to open up that door this morning, but maybe it's going to be hard not to, because on the surface of this question, you have to just ask yourself, if Caitlin Clark breaks the record in less games, on less shot attempts, with a better shooting percentage, And Cheryl Swoops is sitting there saying things like she had an extra year. Records, if you don't break the record in the same exact amount of time, it doesn't count. Cheryl, what sport are you looking at? Because I can give you any sport and I can give you any set of records that are 30 or 40 years apart. And we'll tell you right now, it's a different circumstance. Quarterback, go ask Dan Marino how he feels about today's NFL. My man, Dan the man will have 6,000 yards passing in today's version of the NFL if he played it today. Because he had over 5,000 yards passing in a league that didn't really like passing all that much. They like defense and football. And he passed for over 5,000. You don't think he's sitting there today going, man, if I could spin it today, guys,
right.
Show you something. But it's just the way it is, right, Mo? Look at every scoring record in the NBA. If you played 30 or 40 years ago, the three-point shot wasn't a thing. Sure, it existed, but no one did it on a regular basis. It wasn't a part of the offense the way it is today.
Not at all.
So you got anyone that put up good numbers 30 or 40 years ago in the NBA, they're sitting there today like, man, I could shoot a three. They never let me. They said it wasn't part of the game.
Right.
Inside, we had a big man. We fed the big man inside. If they let me shoot the three, I could be up there. Different time, different era. But Mo, we're not even talking about that. This is the same era of basketball. And she did it in less games, less shot attempts, and with a better shooting percentage. So, Mo, I have to ask you, what is it then?
My initial thoughts was when I saw Cheryl Swoops' comments were, I thought, okay, this is just one of those things where you have an older player who played where the game was a little bit different, and they're doing the old man get off my lawn thing, and maybe because when she played, as great as Cheryl was, women's basketball didn't get nowhere near the shine that it's getting now. And to be fair, though, Caitlin Clark, on her own merits and her own talent, is kind of bringing shine to the game as an individual talent. And there's no shortage of great players from the 90s and the 80s. I'm certain of that. First person that comes to mind, somebody brought it up in a chat the other day, obviously, is Reggie Miller's older sister, Cheryl Miller, who's one of the all-time greats. I'm not debating that. But I thought it was strange because Cheryl Swoops not only attacked the amount of time it took for her to break the record, she even, for whatever reason, aged her and said, this is someone who's 24, 25 playing against 18 and 19-year-olds. And I'm like, one, that's not true. It's not true at all. I believe Caitlin Clark's 21, maybe 22, but that's not remotely true. And then two, she said, well, she shoots the ball all the time. So if you shoot the ball all the time, obviously you're going to score more points. Well, it's not just as simple as that, because she shoots the ball 48% from the field. She shoots the ball over 40% from three. Those aren't average shooting splits by any metric. And the attack, because it felt like an attack when you watched the podcast, it almost felt personal, and I couldn't understand the angle she was going at. And my wife is passing by as I'm watching the podcast, and I'm like, I don't know what her problem is. And with no hesitation, my wife goes, well, she's white, and she's got a problem with that she's standing out and she's white and that she's getting all this shine and that people are calling all this attention to her. And I was like, you don't even watch sports. She goes, and she said, you don't have to watch sports. You just listen to her and listen to how angry she sounds when she's talking. And I'm like, she's right. There's that, maybe not 100%, but there's an element there. And there's an element there that we don't really want to jump into it and make it us versus them. But there's an element there that it does feel like that. And if that's the case, that's sadder on another level. It's one thing to just be a player from yesteryear hating on today's players, but when you make it about race, I don't understand that, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't. It literally should be on the merits of what Caitlin Clark is as a basketball player. That's simple. It should be that cut and dry. I could disagree with Cheryl Swoops if we're just talking about basketball, But when you imply, or at least you're hinting around those edges of why she's being celebrated the way she is, and you make it about that, that's a problem for me, and that should be a problem for anybody who enjoys watching sports.
And we'll be fair, Cheryl never directly said it had anything to do with the color of her skin,
She
but
did not.
there are many, many people in the world of women's basketball who are coming at this situation saying that they feel that has to be part of it because of the emotion and the anger, and just everything that she said was completely wrong. She got her age wrong. She got the amount of time she's been playing college basketball wrong. She got the amount of time it took her to break the record wrong. Everything she said that should have been factual in this conversation was wrong. So she clearly wasn't coming into this with anything based in fact. And she has all this anger and this emotion. So what else could it be based in? And Mo, I get it. If you look at the most successful women's college basketball players, you don't see a ton of white straight girls. You just don't. Like, I don't know why. I don't know. Like, if you just line them all up and you say, these are some of the greatest names in women's college basketball history and the WNBA history, there's just not a lot that follow that particular mold. All right.
At least not in the early stages of the game.
Correct. So you look at it and you're like, is it really that? And then you look at the shine aspect, because you're right. For all the early women pioneers in the WNBA, there was no shine. There was a lot of grit. There was a lot of wear and tear. There was a lot of perseverance, but there wasn't a lot of shine. And Caitlin Clark, since end of year 2, beginning of year 3, Mo, they sell out away games. She sells out away games because people want to come watch her play basketball in college. That's different. That's moving the needle. How many other women in college basketball do you see moving the needle to the point where one of the hottest tickets every week is when Iowa comes to town? That's
just when you said that, that's funny. Iowa's in town, right?
But that shows you what she's doing for the sport of women's basketball. So I get it. I get when you're one of the pioneers of the sport. And don't get me wrong, Cheryl Swoops is. She was a great college basketball player, and she was one of the faces of the WNBA, just like Caitlin is going to be that when she goes there. And I get it when you're sitting there like, man, I think she's got it easier. I think it's just lining up better for her. Why is she? And you start to feel a certain way, Mo. You start feeling like, does she not respect me and what I did? But I would say this, it's not about you. It has nothing to do with you. Right. This isn't disrespectful to you. This isn't hating on what you accomplished. You're not a part of this, Cheryl. So don't put yourself into it. If you want to comment on it, say the right things. Congratulate her. Say that you're proud of her success. Say that you're happy that she's doing what she's doing, and then stop talking about it. But when you go out there and you say everything that you did, and you were wrong, I would say on 100% of it, because not only were you wrong on the factual stuff, I think you were wrong to be angry as well. So nothing you said had any value, in my opinion. Now look where we sit today. Because, let's be honest, nobody was talking about you in a minute. And no one's going to be talking about you a minute from now. So the last time we heard about you was this. And Mo, this just wasn't a good look.
It's not a good look. And I think you hit it on the head. She made it more about her. And I think that's where we are today.
Cam Newton.
Yes. You read my mind. We're in an era where if your time is up, maybe your time in the limelight is up and somebody's out there doing it better or having more success, you have to make it about you when you make a comment. Look, I get it. Cheryl Swoops is like, I won 4 championships in the WNBA. She's had a lot of success, but at the heights of her career, nobody was watching the WNBA. And that's the sad part. And look, I'm a basketball nut. I watched the Houston Comets. I watched all their championships and loved it. But most fans did not tune in for that. Most fans, if we're being 100, unless you're a basketball addict, you don't know the name Cheryl Swoops. Whereas if you're a casual fan, I promise you've heard the name Caitlin Clark before. You've walked by and on the news somebody mentioned that name and you paused and you like, oh, the girl that can shoot her. She's really, I mean, you acknowledged her because that's how big a deal she is right now. Think about what you said, Chris. Iowa. Nobody would ever go like, man, Iowa's coming to town, guys. I'm calling out of work. Nobody's going to do that. But this young lady is getting people to do those types of things. And I do think Cheryl feels like, what about me? They always do. I hate that it has to be like that. It's tough. Look, you don't think Oscar Robertson goes, man, I'd love to be getting the attention that LeBron and these guys are getting today. But I think at the same time, he also knows the game has changed. It's evolved. Look where the league is now. They get more attention. The casual fan, you have more name recognition. I don't think Oscar comes from an edge of hating. Cheryl sounds angry. She sounds, like you said, a lot like our guy, Cam Newton. It's about me. What about me? Look at what I did when I played. And you could come across bitter when you talk like that, when you make comments like that.
And I want to pivot real quick to this, and we're just going to hit on this real quick. You look at the WNBA and you look at the success or the non-success, however you want to frame it, because you can frame it in different ways. And I think that they've done better at marketing their stars recently. But I just want to point this out because you look at, there's a lot of guys out there that are average basketball fans. If you love the game of basketball, I think you prefer to watch the WNBA on some level because it's better quality basketball.
It is more
right?
fundamentally sound,
Fundamentally, it's better basketball. But you have to love basketball to watch the WNBA. Unless you are a fan of certain players or certain teams or whatever the case might be. Mo, look at what Taylor Swift has done for the NFL. Now, I'm not saying that Taylor Swift only has female fans, but I think it's fair to say that the majority of Taylor Swift's fans are female fans, okay?
For sure.
If you can rally that number of people to support the Kansas City Chiefs, it's proof that the female demographic can be rallied for something in the world of sports. So don't sit here and say that you can't get the ratings for the WNBA or the WNBA will never get the ratings, because Taylor Swift proved that if you do things right, you can bring them in the millions. The issue is, for whatever reason, and we don't have time to get into this morning, Mo, the WNBA isn't doing everything right. They're doing some things right, but they're not doing everything right. And I don't know. I don't know what the fix is for that. I don't know what the answer is for that.
I think you just answered it. I think
if Taylor starts going to games, right, maybe.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. They just need to invite Taylor to some games, and next thing you know, it's going to blow up. But really, all seriousness, they need a better, not just a bigger voice, but a bigger advocate for their sport. Somebody that can gravitate people towards their sport, like a Taylor Swift. They have a great message. They don't have a great messenger.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right, right now, you know what time it is. It's Monday, which means we got JG coming on the show with us. Let me push the JG button. What up, JG?
Morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Good morning.
JG, we got you a graphic. I don't know if you saw that or not. I'm just saying.
Man, y'all are blowing me away. I appreciate that, man. This is great.
I mean, the JG button does magical things over here. You have no idea.
Does. It really does.
JG, we got some Major League Baseball stuff to talk. We got a lot of baseball stuff to talk about, actually. So let's get right into it. Music to my ears. The only team that seems to be attached to Blake Snell is the New York Yankees. And more music to my ears is we're talking different numbers now. Now the Yankees are saying things like, listen, if he wants a shorter deal and he wants to go a couple of years, maybe we can throw out something like 30, 35 million a year to get it done on a short contract. JG, those are things I like to hear. I'm still not hearing other teams really involved in this situation. Is a shorter deal the way to go for Snell? Because he'll get the money he wants annually, but it still doesn't look like any team, the Yankees included, are willing to sign on for that much money annually and a long-term deal. It looks like he has to pick which one he values more. Getting the 30, 35 million a year for a couple of years, or getting the 5 or 6 year deal and not getting that big money annually. How do you think it shakes out eventually with him?
Yeah, that's the problem right now. I feel that for Blake Snell is that you've dug your toes in the sand for so long about the long-term deal, and a short-term deal means you get to go to camp. That's important right now, especially for a pitcher. You get to be in training. You get to be in spring training. You get to be in camp. You get to start working with the team, with your catchers, your pitching coach. You get to start really putting yourself in line to get ready for the season. The issue with the short-term deal is, okay, when the short-term deal ends, you're a year older now. We already just saw what happens when you're 30, 31. What's going to happen when you're 31, 32? It's going to continue to progress, and it's not going to get any easier for you. He could win the Cy Young Award if he signs a one-year deal. Let's just say 1 year, $30 million with the Yankees. He wins the Cy Young again in 2024. Are we going to sit here and say, well, that's a difference maker for teams that, they're going to sign to a long-term deal because he just turned 31, he'll be 32 in 2025. It doesn't get any easier still at that point to get a long-term deal, especially in today's era of financing with the MLB. So I kind of understand what he's doing, trying to make sure he still gets a long-term deal. But the market's telling him is like, if you want to play this year, if you want to be in camp, you're gonna have to take the short-term deal. And at some point, he's gonna have to be the one that balks on it. No pun intended, as far as for a pitcher. But he's gonna have to be the one that just says, okay, you know what? Yes, I will take a short-term deal. Can we get and then can we get the money situated a little bit close to the annual number that I was hoping to get, and I'll be happy at that point. But I understand what he and Boris are doing to ensure that they get a long-term deal. So they're going to push it as long as they can till they get a long-term deal, because this is probably going to be the last big contract that Snell gets at this age. Because we're seeing teams just not wanting to pay the big money on a older guy who's in their 30s.
It came out that the Phillies and Bryce Harper are starting to become engaged on talks of an extension. Apparently, Harper and his camp want to stay with the Phillies into Bryce's 40s, which would mean that he would need to add on to his current deal. His current deal still has a lot of time left on it, JG. So I bring this up because it's kind of interesting to see someone who has this many years, I believe it's 7 or 8 years, left on his current deal, is it not? And then he wants to add a few more to kind of push him into his 40s. If you're any team, not just the Phillies, if you're any team and one of your stars comes to you and says, listen, I know you got me locked up for the next 7 or 8. Can we add like 3 more on to that so I can be like, 40, 41, 42 when we wrap this up? Why would a team do that? Because aren't you already concerned that by the time that deal ends, he might not be who he is right now just because of the fact that he's pushing 40? So I don't even know what that would look like money-wise, extension-wise, because this isn't Tom Brady. This isn't football. You don't see players play into their 40s with a great amount of success. I know Nelson Cruz is out there like 55 years old, still jacking up home runs, hitting 192, but people love him for some reason. I just don't see why a team would do this.
You stole my example of a 40-year-old hitter and I'm just a hitter that knows how to hit the baseball at 40, 41, 42 years old. And if there is a player in today's game that I could see being that, it's Bryce Harper. That would be, and again, he's already kind of been a DH. He's now, he's had arm issues as far as he's no longer playing outfield to be first base. So we're kind of seeing the transition. The older Bryce Harper right now, going to be a first baseman over probably the next 5 years, and then potentially move over to be a full-time DH. And when that does happen, Could we see him play and be a hitter in his 40s? Yeah. I again, of all players that are out there today, Bryce Harper is the one that I could sit there and say, yeah, he can be a hitter in Major League Baseball at 40, 41, 42 years old. I agree. Now, the question that you just asked, how do you structure a contract extension when there's 7 years still left on his deal and you're going to try to add 3 more years? That doesn't make a lot of sense to the Phillies at that point. I get, he is a recruiting tool for the Philadelphia Phillies. But again, if you're that's your key point is that you play with Bryce Harper, but at the same time, you play on a team that has played in the NLCS back-to-back years. The team itself has been really good. So there's more to the recruiting tool for the Phillies than just Bryce Harper. I don't know. Again, this would be a little bit unprecedented. We're going to push for a contract extension 7 years down the road until he becomes a free agent. So
it's interesting. Ask for the moon, right? I mean, why not?
Sure, why not? Because again, at the end of the day, as I said, and I'm sure there's scouts out there that agree that Bryce Harper probably can be that hitter that just was like Nelson Cruz, who's 40, 41 years old and still hitting up 20 plus home runs, batting 260 to 270 at 40 years. That would be amazing. I think Harper would be that kind of guy.
So we always make fun of the Giants because nobody wants their money, and they eventually found some people to take their money. But JG, now the Giants are trying to be magicians. They're trying to pull the rabbit out of the proverbial hat because Pablo Sandoval is making a return to baseball with the San Francisco Giants. He is looking to start his Major League Baseball comeback story with the Giants. JG, I see your face over there. How much of a story is this going to be for Pablo? Are we going to see him make an opening day roster? Will the Panda be back in baseball?
No.
You're going to you cut it short so quick.
Yes, because we haven't seen Pablo Sandoval do anything in Major League Baseball in a few years. The last time he really played was a pinch hitter in 2021 for the Atlanta Braves. We're talking 3 years. This would be 3 years down the road. Oh, by the way, he batted 178 with the Braves at that point as a pinch hitter. No, I don't care what he's done in the Mexican leagues. I don't care what he's done in the Venezuelan league. I don't care what he's done in I don't care. That's not the same. And I know guys use that as major league players when they go to those leagues, they use it as a warm up. They don't do it to resurrect their career. And that's what Pablo was doing. He was trying to resurrect his career to play in Mexico and play in a couple of organizations down there and everything to try to hopefully stay in the game and be able to resurrect his career. But we're talking about a guy who hasn't been a good ball player in a very long time. This is more, hey, we're going to bring back and honor Pablo and the Giants. We're going to give him a chance to just kind of be around, let the fans see Pablo Sandoval. The Panda. We'll sell Panda T-shirts, the Panda head hats. We'll see those again at spring training. But we're not sitting here saying that Pablo Sandoval is going to make the roster and be a contributor to this team. There's no way. Again, 3 years, and he was he was an okay player, and it's probably been about 6 years since we last seen Pablo really be good. And I know he had the short stint in Boston where he was out of shape at that point for a couple of years. So we're almost talking about it. I'll say it's almost a decade. Almost a decade that we've seen Pablo Sandoval be a good ball player, a good contributor. No expectations that it's going to be the case here in 2024.
I mean, JG, in all honesty, the unfortunate part of this for Pablo is he just played on a team that's going to be competitive this season. If he played for, Pittsburgh during the most of his career or Oakland during the majority of his career, he might actually make the roster because they might want to sell some Panda hats during the season and try to get some people to come out to the games. Unfortunately, the Giants are not in that boat. They don't need to do those sort of things to get people to show up to their games. So unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we're going to see a lot of Panda this season. Pete Alonso, this came out over the weekend. Pete Alonso is looking for Freddie Freeman or Paul Goldschmidt money. Is he going to get that kind of money on the open market next season?
Well, yeah, I could see that as far as with Freeman, because Freeman got less than what he was asking for when he became a free agent at the end of 2021 when he went to 2022 with the Dodgers. He was asking initially it was around 200 million. The number went down to 180. He signed for 160. Yeah, I can see Pete Alonso getting that. Paul Goldschmidt money, that's a little bit of a stretch, I think, right now, because Goldschmidt has been throughout his career one of, if not the best first baseman. So, and overall first baseman. But I think if you look at it with Freeman, and I know Freeman's older than he's older now, than what Pete Alonso will be at the time of his free agency, because he turned 31. Alonso will turn 30 this offseason. So a little bit, again, 1 year difference to some may not make a difference, but in baseball, we know 1 year difference does mean something. I think it'll be in between. I think we'll see a number that's kind of close to the Freddie Freeman number. I could think it maybe more of a low, maybe around a 140. I'd say the floor be 120, maybe not more than 150. But he won't surpass Freeman. He won't surpass Goldschmidt, because you're talking about two guys that are one of the better hitters. I know Alonso is one of the better power hitters in the game, but Freeman averages around a 300 average almost every year. Goldschmidt, and throughout his career, was a 300 hitter throughout their career, and they hit 25 to 30 plus home runs as well. So, and then Gold Glove, first baseman on defense. And there's your difference. They're complete players in the game at first base. And me being a former first baseman, I absolutely love it. It makes me smile when I say complete players at first base. Pete Alonso has not been that. He has been one of the better power hitters, but he batted .217 this past season with the Mets. You can't pay somebody top dollar. And I say that, but there's teams that probably still will, because they don't care about batting average. They just see the home run and RBI total. But I think if you want to compare, if you put him on a list and compare, if you take their names off and you have Alonso's stats, Freeman's stats, and Goldschmidt's stats, and you say 1, 2, 3, top pay, second pay, third pay, who are you going to do? You'll look at their numbers and you're going to say, well, the numbers that were better overall, batting average, home runs, RBIs, defense of WAR, they're going to get the top dollar. And that bottom one, the third one, would be Pete Alonso's stats. So it's going to be below. It won't reach Freeman or Goldschmidt's numbers, but it'll be comparable at times.
JG, if you live in the Sacramento area, man, your life is about to get better, because it looks like a few. Yeah, it is. I know Mo's excited. Mo's already on the pre-order for this. If you live in Sacramento, you're getting Oakland A's baseball for a few years. It looks like the A's are going to play in Sacramento from 2025 to 2027 before they make the trek over to Las Vegas. New market, new possibilities. That's the plan. That's how we're going to get people revved up for the move. We're going to play in Sacramento for a few years. Man, JG, you thought no one came to the games when the team actually played in Oakland, their actual home. Who's going to the games in Sacramento?
Who's going to go to a game, again, even if it's a non-base MLB city, who's going to go watch a team that won 50 games?
I mean, it depends on who they're playing. That's when you're going to – people are going to show up when the Yankees come to town,
Sure.
when the Braves come to town, when the Phillies come to town. That's when you're going to see some people.
Okay.
But
some people.
Did they when they were in Oakland?
I don't know. Yankees?
No.
The Yankees, they got the road attendance going.
I'm not talking about the away team's fans.
I'm not
talking about the fans that travel. Yes, you're right.
No.
The Yankees and Braves and Red Sox and Cubs fans, they travel no matter who, no matter where, no matter what, no matter when they're doing it, they will travel. I'm not talking about those fans. I'm talking about the home fans.
Oh, they don't have
home fans. The home fans didn't show up to watch the Yankees and A's play. The home fans didn't show up to watch the Braves and A's. The home fans didn't come watch the Red Sox and A's. They didn't come out. So you talk a city that is not a Major League Baseball city. How excited! Again, it's a smaller stadium, so it may look aesthetically better because it's a smaller stadium. So you look, hey, we have a sellout crowd right now. It's 17,000 people, or 17,000 in the I think maybe the A's got 17,000 4 times all year, and that was only one of them was because of the reverse protest. But I mean, this has become a laughing stock of baseball, and at some point, I know Manfred is not trying to step in completely. He's letting the A's and the city of Oakland and whoever wants to get involved with this and just handle it. But by God, some point, this is embarrassing Major League Baseball. This is absolutely embarrassing that the A's went through this without a plan. That's what this tells me. They did not have a plan, because normally when you have a team that's moving cities or moving to a new stadium or whatnot, the stadium lease runs until you move. They did not have anything in place as a stopgap until they moved to Vegas. How do you plan that?
I think they were thinking Vegas would just take them. I really think they were hoping Vegas was going to be like, come over here and play here until we build the stadium.
Which they have a minor league stadium in Vegas, but there's a procedure that they have to do to move the 51s. I'm sorry, the Las Vegas 51. There's a procedure they have to do to move that team, and it's going to take time for that to happen. So you can't sit there and say, well, hey, you play in the Vegas 51s stadium for the next 3 years, and then you'll move to your stadium. That doesn't work that way. There's a plan and procedure of precedent that has to occur. Charlotte right now, the city of Charlotte has a minor league team, and Charlotte's in there trying to plan for a minor league team. Nashville has a minor league team. The Nashville that they're trying to figure out and say, okay, how do we move them so we can build and move and have a major league team? They're in the process of planning it out. How do you sit there, if you're the owner of the A's, plan out this move and really plan out the moves of other teams in that city? Because, again, we know this. The Raiders move because of the A's owner with how he handled the stadium. You went through this whole plan and procedure of moving teams and moving your team without an actual plan of a stopgap for 3 to 4 years. And that's probably 4 years, and figure out, well, we don't have a home. Now what are we going to do? Well, Rob Manfred's showing you he's not involving himself in this. You figure this out because you did not do your job. This is embarrassing. And now we're going to have to scramble. We're going to have to say, hey, go to play Sacramento or go to Salt Lake or go cry back to the Oakland mayor and say, can we please play here for the next 4 to 5 years? And then we're out of your hair and we're moving. You're the last team. We're the last team in your city, last professional team in your city, and we just want to be here short term, and then bye.
JG, before we get you out of here, the Texas Rangers have come out and said that they're good. They don't really see themselves adding any more pieces before the season begins. And then let's take a shot to the corner. Oh, there's Jordan Montgomery, still not signed, still wants to be a Texas Ranger. JG, are they pandering here a little bit? Are they just trying to say things to get Montgomery moving, to come to the table and agree to whatever terms they have already discussed? Or has Texas actually decided, hey, we're moving forward, we got what we got, we're happy with it, and Montgomery is not going to be a Texas Ranger this season?
A little bit of both. That they know. We just talk about the Yankees right now. The Yankees they have full leverage over Blake Snell. Rangers have full leverage early over Montgomery. Now the Yankees could just say we're going to move on from Snell and we'll go get Montgomery. So there's a little bit more of a negotiation that has to take place for the Rangers for Montgomery, whereas nobody's really outbidding at the moment or even trying to have a competition for Blake Snell with the Yankees. But you don't need to out negotiate yourself right now if you're the Rangers still, because it's just speculation at the moment. Are they good with their rotation right now? I don't think so. I don't, because you don't know what the health of Max Scherzer, you don't know the health of Jacob deGrom right now. So those are two guys who are top level pitchers that when are they going to be healthy at some point? We don't know. Do you really feel comfortable with Nathan Eovaldi? And we'll have to be determined, because Nathan Eovaldi pitched amazing in 2023. Can he repeat that in 2024? We have yet to see Nathan Eovaldi have back-to-back great seasons in his career. So that's a question mark right now for the Rangers. Is Eovaldi going to continue to be the ace of the staff for the time being? Are you trusting John Gray and Andrew Heaney and Dane Dunning and to really be that depth pitching that you believe in? Which at times teams, the team and fans did not have trust in Dane Dunning as consistently. They did not have trust in Andrew Heaney as consistently throughout. I think you're going to have to really figure out if what you have in those guys and I've said this to you guys before, the prospects that they're building, are they ready? And I think that would be the more exciting move, is if you have a Jack Leiter ready to go, if you have a Owen Murphy, Evan Carter, if he's ready to go. And I might be actually butchering that. I think Carter was the position player. There's another pitcher in their farm that I'm butchering his name right now. But you have two pitching prospects. Are they ready? This is their timeline right now. Are they ready to go? And if they are, I think that's the move you make with those kids, and be able to push and just say, be a 4 and 5 in our rotation. And that way, Eovaldi, Heaney, and Dunning is our 1, 2, 3. And then when DeGrom and Scherzer come back, we probably would like to have Dane Dunning and Andrew Heaney in the bullpen, and you two kids be the 4 and 5, and DeGrom and Scherzer replaces those two at the top of the rotation, and we continue to go from there. I'm still skeptical on that, though. And I would rather Jordan Montgomery over Andrew Heaney, John Gray, or Dane Dunning, or Tyler Mahle as well. So are they good right now? Yeah, they're good. Are they exceptionally great as far as what they saw in 2024 with the pitching staff, that how they won the World Series? No, they're not right now. And I would put the Houston Astros at the moment better than the Texas Rangers pitching-wise.
And on that note, JG, we'll wrap you up. Thank you so much for being here this morning, sir.
Appreciate the knowledge, JG.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Mo, it is a whirlwind when JG comes on. He just drops the knowledge, and then we move
all
on.
The time.
All the time. All right, Mo, this next segment is sponsored by Sports Empire Network, and we are going to talk a little Steph and Sabrina. Mo, it was everything that I could have hoped for. What were your initial reactions watching Steph and Sabrina?
I enjoyed it. You didn't know what to expect. You knew what kind of competitors both were. I think some people came in and thinking, well, Steph won't take it serious, or will she be too nervous for the moment? And I think they both put on a show. Like when she did her first rack, I was like, oh, she's serious. Oh, she's going for it.
Yep.
She's going. I like she's going for it. She's gonna put pressure on Steph. Like she's gonna get a good score. She got a great score. Like they said on the broadcast, her score would have tied her for first in the normal 3-point contest. That's how great a shooter she was. I enjoyed it. And Steph, being Steph, right? He comes out and he sees her score, and he just does Steph things, right? I mean, the way he finished up that last rack, I loved it, because when she went, and even though she got a score that was a big score, he celebrated her. You know, he gave her a hug, gave her a high five. I love that. And then she reciprocated when he got the score, even though it beat her. She celebrated him. I thought for me, the 3-point contest and then their individual contest, those were the highlights of the weekend. Look, I know people are talking about the slam dunk competition. That was the highlight of the weekend for me. That was just a great moment. I actually watched that. I've watched it multiple times. That's how much I've enjoyed it.
I was a little disappointed, Mo, in some of the comments. And again, you're always going to have this, but I didn't like the fact that Kenny made the comment, I think, right after the contest, saying that, she should have shot from the women's 3-point line, and not needed on that broadcast. She literally tied all of the gentlemen that were playing in the actual NBA 3-point contest. She was
correct,
just as good as Dame Lillard and the rest of them. Was she as good as the greatest 3-pointer of all time? No, she fell 3 points short. By the way, she was up by 1 on Steph going into the final rack, and Steph
Exactly.
delivered in the clutch, which is what Steph does. So for you to sit there as a basketball analyst on a national broadcast with all the eyes from both leagues on that moment, and for her to do what she did and be on the same level as every three-point shooter that shot that day, except for Steph Curry, who beat her, and then say, well, she should have shot for the women's line. Maybe she would have won. Mo, for me, that wasn't needed in that moment, because now I feel like you're almost taking away from her the fact that she chose to shoot from the same line. Because Mo, what would have happened had she beat Steph and shot from the women's line?
Kenny would have said the same thing. He would
Exactly.
have said, but she was shooting from the women's line.
Right.
And I thought the whole point of her selecting to shoot from the NBA line neutralized that argument, neutralized that point, or at least try. And it did. It did. Anybody with common sense know it did. I think what happened with Kenny was he said something that he thought he would normally think in quiet. He said it out loud. That's what happened. And I'm sure he regrets it, because I'm sure he's getting lit up for what he said, because it was a bad look. You sounded a little sexist, like you kind of got a bit of a problem, Kenny. And I didn't understand that. In that moment, the way she shot, and you said she tied all the gentlemen, I would actually say she shot better than Karl Anthony Towns, because he kept standing on the line. So a lot of his didn't really even count. So she actually shot better than Kat. So I don't want to hear any comments like that. That's how great a shooter she was.
And then,
I'm sorry,
if it wasn't the line, and then there was the ball conversation, well, she shot with the women's ball.
Yeah.
Why would she shoot with a guy? She's never used the guy's ball. She doesn't play with the guy's ball. Like, the stupid comments that came out after this, like, Mo, I just don't understand why there is a portion of the male sports audience that is threatened by a talented female athlete. Skill is skill. Game respects game. It's not like there is an army of Sabrinas out there knocking on the door of the NBA saying, I got what you got. There aren't. She's one of one. And she came in here and she put on a show, Mo, in a situation where many were probably expecting her to fail. Let's be honest. If you don't know women's basketball and you haven't watched her through her career, and you're just a casual fan, or you're a big Steph fan, or you're a big NBA star fan, you probably heard about this and you're like, oh, Steph's going to mop the floor with her. Steph's going to blow her out of the water. Steph's going to embarrass her. And he didn't. She came in and said, I'm just as good as all of you at this, at knocking down open three-point shots. That's all it was, Mo. This wasn't a, I'm good enough to play in the NBA. This wasn't a, I'm a better shooter than Steph Curry. No. It was the same skill. Can you knock down an open three? That's what the three-point competition is. And at that particular skill, she is just as good as any of the guys in the NBA, and she proved that this weekend.
And like you said, she's only not better than the greatest shooter of all time, right?
Correct. She's just as good as the rest.
Right. I'm going to say, so that just puts her in the same category as everybody else, right? So she is just as good as Towns, even though Dame won it. She's as good as Dame. She's as good as Trae Young. She's that greater shooter. Like you said, it's just on skill alone, on ability. She's as good as anybody that was out there that night. And I was just blown away by her performance. Like I said, and the crazy part was she had a rack where she missed all but one shot. And that was like a bad rack. But had she got, shot like she normally did on that rack, she would have beat him. That's how well she shot.
I like the fact that she alluded to a part 2 next year. Doing a tag team sort of thing. And
I've already got
what
the vision.
League needs.
I've already got the vision. Her and Caitlin Clark.
Yep. That's what the league now. I don't know if Clay should be the partner.
Yes, that's funny. That's funny. It's funny you said that, because on social media, a lot of people, the normal reaction was, "Oh, Steph and Clay," but then a lot of people were like, "I don't know now. I don't know about this Clay." They're like, "I don't know about this Clay." They're like, "Maybe you want to, maybe Steph will go ask Dame or Trae Young or somebody like that," but they're not looking at Clay right now.
It might be a hard conversation for Steph and Clay to have, where Steph is like, I need you to sit this one out.
Yeah. I got this, partner. I'll do this for the team.
You can be there rooting us on. You can be
Right, right.
the towel guy.
Yeah. I appreciate that support, brother. Right.
Mo, going into the All-Star game, Larry Bird had some comments about the All-Star game and what it was like when he played, and he was hoping the effort was going to be there for this game. It wasn't. 211 to 186 is an absolute joke. The NBA needs to get rid of the All-Star game. It's not entertaining. It's not fun to watch. It's a lot of no defense. It's a lot of people not really caring. You can only watch so many, deep shots and fancy layups. I mean, after half a quarter, you're over it because it's the same thing for 4 quarters. I don't know what the NBA needs to do, but
it's a 2-hour layup line.
layup line. This isn't it. It was not entertaining. It wasn't fun to watch. I don't care about them talking to each other on the floor. I don't care who's mic'd up. It's not an enjoyable product. And I don't know what you could find because, some people are like, well, make it 3-on-3, make it this, make it that. It doesn't matter. They don't want to get hurt. So they're not going to play. They're not going to play defense. They're not going to play hard because they're gearing up for the second half of the season to go win a championship. So you're never going to get their best effort or really any effort because they don't want to risk injury, which is going to hurt their actual team and what they're actually trying to accomplish during the season.
Right.
So for me, Mo, there is no answer. Maybe you just make it a skills competition and you try to do more stuff like this Sabrina Steph thing and you call it a day and there is no All-Star game. Maybe that's what it turns into.
Anything is better than the current product that they put out there because it's just terrible to watch. And I'm not here to at all argue the players' reasoning. I get that.
No, it makes sense.
The second half of the season is a sprint, and most guys that are out there at the All-Star game, they're their team's best player. They're their guy. What you're not trying to do, you're literally playing not to get hurt. Although a coach of mine would make the argument that when you play not to get hurt is usually when you do get hurt.
Yes, sir.
But I'm with you. Come up with different kind of skills. Come up with like fun matchups. Maybe make it more inclusive with more WNBA players. Maybe bring in more G League players. The interesting thing is when you watch the G League guys, those guys go for it, right? They go for it, and I'm starting to think they have nothing to lose. So
right.
You're getting everybody's best effort. Exactly.
If they can make a couple highlights, Mo, someone might be like, "Oh, he's in our system. We should bring him up."
Somebody's gonna. That guy's one of our guys. He's under contract. Like I'll keep him 100. Like when they were doing the slam dunk competition, I didn't know that Toppin's brother was a member of the Knicks. I was like, he must like be on their G League team because honestly, I didn't even know he had a younger brother that played. But look, they need to fix a couple things, but fixing the All-Star game, I'm with you. Just do away with it and come up with more interesting things to bring the fans in and make it more inclusive because the game itself, it is unwatchable. I watched the first quarter. I enjoyed watching Halliburton. He made like 6 or 7 threes. And then because I knew where the game was going, I was done. I didn't need to watch anymore because I knew where it was going. It wasn't going to be competitive. You can tell how it was played. Like this was one of the worst ones in years because they literally didn't compete defensively. Both teams didn't. Like if a guy wanted to get a breakaway or throw it off the backboard, guys were like literally just clearing out the way. Like, let me give you a good angle. I mean, it was bad.
What 1/4 speed breakaway because they weren't running either.
Right after made shots, you could do a 1-man fast break past the other team. Look, Dame shooting from half court, which is great. It's a fun trick shot, but it doesn't take away from the fact the game itself was horrible. It was just hard to watch.
100%. Mo, I don't know if you have your PhD or not, but we need to get a doctor down to Milwaukee because it looks like Doc Rivers has a serious allergy. The man is allergic to accountability, and we need to figure out a way to help him because I think I'm fearing for his life here, Mo. We saw his comments after they lost to the Grizzlies, talking about players being in Cabo, players being on vacation, and then he comes out during All-Star Weekend And he's tongue in cheek talking about how it's harder than he thought it was gonna be, but also let's not forget this is the toughest stretch of their schedule right here. When I was talking and negotiating, I even said, maybe I just come on after the All-Star break. Once we get through that 10-game stretch, maybe that's when I see, Doc. So let me get this straight. The team comes and says, we just fired our coach. We don't think things are working. We got a tough 10 games coming up. And you were like, hey, let me come on after that. You guys figure out those 10 games by yourselves. I'll give you my services after the hard stuff when it gets a little bit easier. Mo, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And
Right.
He actually said publicly that he said that during negotiations. Maybe it'll make more sense if I came on after. Stop it. What a joke. What a joke Doc Rivers is.
And the thing is, I'm like, Doc, you guys got blown out at home. Our colleague here at Wire to Wire Network, Brett, who does the N1 podcast, he's an avid Milwaukee Bucks fan. He actually got tickets, went to go see that game live. They got blown out at home by like 30, like destroyed. And then the next night, they played a Grizzlies team, Chris, that had none of their stars. No, there was not Jaren Jackson Jr. Everybody was out. Matter of fact, you would say that they had like a team of G Leaguers for the most part.
It was a G League team.
And they ate the Bucks lunch. Don't give me that excuse about they were thinking, no, it wasn't that. You guys just got outplayed. I watched that game. When we did the broadcast, I shot down there and watched the fourth quarter, and they got owned by a bunch of G League guys who salute to those guys for bringing it the way they did. But that has nothing to do with they were already in vacation mode. That was not it, because what happened was it became a one-possession game, and then it became about situational basketball, and their coach outcoached the Bucks coach, which would be, in fact, Doc Rivers. So my problem with Doc is it isn't that he's a very likable guy. He's a good basketball coach, but he's not a great basketball coach. He's never been one to make in-game adjustments. And I feel like he won't admit it, but I feel like he realizes I stepped into something that I shouldn't have. Because he has to know the expectations for the Milwaukee Bucks, Chris, it's either championship or it's a failed season. And they're a lot closer to the latter, if you know what I mean. So I really think Doc's in denial about where this team is going. And if you're a Bucks fan, I look, I'm not trying to predict the future, but you have to be at least a little worried about your prospects heading towards the end of the season and seeding, because I just think your team, it's fun to watch, but you guys can't stop anybody defensively.
Let's not forget the Bucks won 70% of their games before Doc Rivers showed up. They are 3-7 with him. Obviously, plenty of time to turn that around, Mo. But when you're losing to the teams they're losing to, Utah, Portland, Memphis, those aren't flukes. Like, you lost to those teams. Everyone has a bad night, but you've had 3 in 10 games. So, just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what they are right now. Look, if you're under Doc Rivers, they're a below average basketball team. So say whatever you will about Adrian Griffin, and maybe he doesn't have the best people skills, but as a basketball coach, he was a better basketball coach than Doc Rivers was for this Milwaukee Bucks team.
All right, Mo, great showing on Monday. Close us out, sir.
Hey, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for everybody up in the chat today. Check out all the great content that we have to offer for you guys. Check out Wire to Wire Sports Network. Check out Sports Empire Network. Check out Coffee and Sports in the Morning. Check out the morning show with Chris and Mo.
We'll be back tomorrow morning. We got NFL, not NBA. Well, I mean, we might have some NBA stuff, but we got NFL stuff to talk about tomorrow. Mo and I are gonna make our way to early playoff predictions for next season. We're also gonna revisit the overtime playoff rules now that we've had a little bit of time to let it sink in and let it digest a little bit.
Yes, let's get that correct. Let's fix that. Let's fix that for Kyle Shanahan and all the others out there, and the rest of the Niners who didn't know.
Correct. We're going to go back and revisit that conversation, all of that and more. It's Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show, and we will see you tomorrow morning.